Imagine a weapon so massive that moving it required 5 separate trains. A weapon so enormous that more than 4,000 people were needed just to operate and protect it. A weapon whose thunderous blast could be heard for miles, shaking the ground so violently that people thought an earthquake had struck. It wasn't a science fiction machine, it was real. And during World War II, Nazi Germany built it. This was Schwerer Gustav, the largest artillery gun ever used in combat and one of the most ambitious military engineering projects in human history. But despite its unimaginable power, this giant weapon would ultimately reveal a harsh truth about warfare. Bigger doesn't always mean better. To understand why Germany created such a monster, we need to go back to the late 1930s. At the time, Europe was filled with heavily fortified defensive systems. France had the famous Maginot Line, a vast network of underground bunkers, tunnels, and artillery positions. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union was building powerful defensive fortifications of its own. Military planners believed these defenses were nearly impossible to destroy using conventional artillery. German leader Adolf Hitler wanted a weapon capable of smashing through the strongest fortresses on Earth. The task was given to the German engineering giant Krupp. Their mission was simple: create a gun powerful enough to destroy reinforced concrete bunkers, underground facilities, and heavily armored fortifications from a great distance. What they created would become a weapon unlike anything the world had ever seen. Now try to picture this. Schwerer Gustav measured approximately 47 meters or 154 feet in length. That's roughly the length of 8 modern tanks lined up one after another. Its barrel alone stretched more than 32 meters, making it longer than many buildings. The gun's caliber was an astonishing 800 millimeters. The opening of the barrel was so large that a grown adult could comfortably fit inside it. Standing next to Gustav made people look tiny. Photographs from the era show soldiers appearing like ants beside a steel giant. And then there was its weight. The weapon weighed around 1,350 tons. That's heavier than many naval destroyers. Because of its immense weight, Gustav couldn't simply be placed on the ground. Instead, engineers had to construct a specialized railway system. 4 parallel tracks were required. 2 tracks supported the gun itself, while the other 2 were used by cranes and support equipment needed for assembly and maintenance. The entire setup looked less like a weapon and more like a moving industrial complex. Transporting Schwerer Gustav was a military operation all by itself. The gun was dismantled into approximately 25 major components. These pieces were loaded onto multiple trains and transported to the battlefield. Once they arrived, crews had to rebuild the weapon from scratch. This process could take up to 6 weeks. Think about that. More than a month passed before the gun could fire a single shot. Thousands of workers, engineers, railway specialists, soldiers, mechanics, and support personnel were involved. Some assembled the massive barrel, others built railways, some handled ammunition, others provided security. The area around Gustav often resembled a small town rather than a military position. For one weapon, the amount of manpower required was staggering, but all of this effort was for one reason: its unbelievable firepower. One type of Gustav shell was a high explosive projectile nearly 8 meters long and weighing around 4,800 kilograms. When fired, it could travel approximately 40 kilometers or 25 miles. Upon impact, it could create a crater more than 12 meters deep. An entire building could disappear inside a hole that size, and that wasn't even its most frightening ammunition. The gun also fired armor-piercing shells weighing around 7,100 kilograms. These projectiles were specifically designed to penetrate deep underground before exploding. Instead of destroying targets on the surface, they attacked from within. Tests suggested these shells could punch through up to 10 meters of reinforced concrete before detonating. At the time, very few military structures on Earth could survive a direct hit. Schwerer Gustav wasn't just a gun. It was a weapon designed to erase fortifications from existence.
Firing Gustav was a spectacle unlike anything most people had ever witnessed. The process was slow and complicated. The barrel had to be lowered, the giant shell carefully loaded, propellant charges inserted. Every step required precision and caution. Then came the moment of firing. When Gustav unleashed a round, the explosion was deafening. The shockwave traveled across the surrounding landscape, Windows shattered, the earth trembled. People miles away could hear the blast. Some described it as less of a sound and more of a physical force that could be felt throughout the body. Despite years of planning and construction, Gustav saw very limited combat use. Its most famous deployment occurred during the siege of Sevastopol in 1942. German forces used the giant gun against heavily fortified Soviet defenses. One of its most famous shots reportedly struck an underground ammunition storage facility. The resulting explosion devastated the target area. Massive underground structures collapsed. Defensive positions were destroyed. For a brief moment, Gustav demonstrated exactly what it had been built to do. The world's largest gun had finally shown its terrifying power. But here is the surprising part. Despite its incredible destructive capability, Schwerer Gustav was not a practical weapon. Each shot required extensive preparation. Sometimes it took up to 45 minutes between rounds. In fast-moving warfare, that was a serious disadvantage. The enormous recoil placed tremendous stress on the railway system. Maintenance was constant. Repairs were frequent. And because the gun was so large, hiding it from enemy aircraft was nearly impossible. Once its location was discovered, it became an obvious target. As the war evolved, aircraft and mobile artillery became far more useful than a giant railway gun that required thousands of people to operate. Technology had already begun making Gustav obsolete. After World War II, Schwerer Gustav disappeared. The giant weapon was dismantled and eventually scrapped. Today, no complete version remains. Yet its story continues to fascinate historians and engineers around the world. Because Schwerer Gustav wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of human ambition pushed to the extreme. A machine built to achieve what once seemed impossible. And it leaves us with a powerful question. If humanity can create something this enormous and destructive in pursuit of war, what might it create in the future? And will those technologies protect us or become our greatest threat? The story of Schwerer Gustav reminds us that sometimes the most powerful machines ever built are also the clearest warnings about the cost of human conflict.